Eagle-eyed Jeopardy! Fans have spotted a contestant's hidden message during Ken Jennings' introduction segment before Joey DeSena scored his second win. As the host introduced all three of Tuesday's players, Jonathan Fox slipped in some sign language, leaving fans who don't know ASL wondering what he said. Jonathan, a staffing capacity manager from Plymouth, Massachusetts, went up against Kathleen Clark, an English teacher originally from Stamford, Connecticut, as well as returning champ Joey DeSena. The development engineer from Raleigh, North Carolina, was looking to extend his one-day winning streak and increase his earnings of $17,497. At the top of the episode, beloved Jeopardy! Announcer Johnny Gilbert introduced all three contestants, as he does every game before host Ken, 50, walks out. The players are shown for about 5 seconds each standing at the podium, and typically stare directly at the camera while smiling. However, Jonathan used his short time in a special way to give a special shout-out to his wife of 23 years, Julie. He held up the thumb and pointer finger, which is the ASL sign for I love you, and then individually spelled out each letter, Julie, while signing. Fans thought the gesture was so sweet, with one event commenting, "If I was Julie, I'd be in a puddle of tears at home." What a nice gesture from Jonathan. Seems like a good husband, another said. While a third was so grateful that ASL was getting more exposure on the highly watched trivia show. As someone with deaf family members, this was a really special treat to see. So grateful anytime ASL is used on a big platform. Jonathan revealed that his wife is also a self-proclaimed Jeopardy! Junkie, and they even compete together in trivia nights at local pubs. The Massachusetts native told local WBZ News how much the pinch me moment of getting to be on the show means to him. "When I was a teenager, I'd run home from school, because the show was on at 4 o'clock locally. I guess, for better or for worse, I have a space in my head for all sorts of random facts. The whole experience when you get on stage is exhilarating, it's a little overwhelming." The game show buff gave credit to Ken and the entire staff and crew for guiding him through the daunting filming process in the bright Hollywood lights. "The staff really took any anxiety about being there away," he said, while adding he still felt the presence of the late Alex Trebek. "He's still everywhere. He's still spoken of such reverent terms in that studio." Jonathan had an impressive run, securing $13,600 going into Final Jeopardy, which was just $800 behind first place as Joey had $14,400. Kathleen remained in third much of the game and had $7,600 going into the last round. The category for the last question was literary monuments, and Ken read off the clue. A 112-foot-tall monument in a Madrid plaza depicts a writer seated above bronze statues of these two characters. In an opposite result from yesterday's triple stumper, everyone was correct in writing down, who are Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. While Jonathan didn't secure a win, he ended the game in second with an impressive $18,000. Joey scored his second victory, adding another $27,201 to his prize pot, while Kathleen had $15,200 by the end of the game. During a recent Jeopardy! Episode, viewers spotted something unusual that would have otherwise gone unnoticed if not for the eagle-eyed fans. While host Ken Jennings delivered his typical opening monologue, a contestant named Emma subtly used sign language, sending out what fans later called a hidden message that quickly took social media by storm. Emma was an unassuming, soft-spoken librarian from Portland. She had come prepared for the intellectual challenge of a lifetime, having spent years absorbing knowledge on a wide array of topics. But beyond her love for trivia, Emma had another reason for her appearance that day. She wanted to communicate a silent, heartfelt message to someone special watching at home. As Ken Jennings introduced her, Emma knew she had only a few moments. Smiling warmly at the camera, she made a series of quick gestures, her fingers dancing in a sequence only someone fluent in American Sign Language, ASL, would recognize. It was subtle enough that, at first glance, it just seemed like a casual hand movement. But to those paying attention, it held deeper meaning. Immediately after the episode aired, dedicated Jeopardy! Fans took to forums and social media. Did anyone else see that contestant signing something to the camera during the intro? One viewer asked in a Jeopardy fan group. A few comments followed, with some dismissing it as an accidental movement. But one user, who was deaf and fluent in ASL, recognized the signs immediately. She was saying "I love you" and "thank you," the user explained, excitement evident in her post. It was so beautiful. She signed "I love you" first, then "thank you" as if she were speaking to someone very dear to her. The revelation sent the fan group buzzing with curiosity. Who was Emma's message for? What inspired her to use ASL in such a subtle yet heartfelt manner? Before long, a theory emerged that Emma was likely communicating with a loved one, possibly someone from the deaf community. But there was one question hanging in the air: would Emma be able to keep her winning streak? As the game progressed, Emma's journey on Jeopardy became just as suspenseful as the meaning behind her hidden message. From the start, she held her own against her competitors, delivering answers with a confidence that rivaled even the most seasoned contestants. With each correct response, her smile grew, and so did her supporters online. People who had tuned in initially to see her hand signs found themselves rooting for her with every passing question. But then, in the second round, the tides began to shift. Her opponent, a schoolteacher named Brian, started to pull ahead. He answered a series of high-value questions in rapid succession, slowly closing the gap between him and Emma's lead. Emma, determined not to let her lead slip, fought back. She buzzed in quickly for questions on history and literature, two of her strong suits, and managed to keep the gap narrow. However, a fateful moment came when she chose a high-stakes question in the science and technology category. The answer, deceptively simple, required knowledge in physics, a field she had always struggled with. Ken read the question, and Emma hesitated just a beat too long. By the time she buzzed in, Brian had already locked in his answer. And it was correct. The game was neck and neck as they entered Final Jeopardy. Emma knew her entire Jeopardy journey hung on this last question. She glanced down, taking a deep breath, perhaps once again thinking of the person she'd sent her message to at the start of the show. The Final Jeopardy question was a tough one in the category of 20th century poetry. Emma scribbled down her answer.